Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the major number HIT-41HS2. This is a router template for the HES5200 and 5210-EA series offset hung frame electric strike. So the HES5200 is or the RF5210 is a electric strike is what it is. This is a template, a jig, a fixture that's going to substantially improve your end result when you need to mortise an existing aluminum frame, is what this will be used for. Could this be used for wood? Well, the template can be used for wood. The question will be whether or not the strike is appropriate for aluminum. We'll have to look at the information for the strike itself. But this is what it is. Weighs about 1.7 pounds, at least it does with that paperwork I just showed you. Overall length, about 11 inch. Overall width of what you'd see on the face of the frame, 2 inch. In the rabbet of the frame, about 2.5. And along with the template itself is a packet of information, and we're going to go through that. It's a lot of paperwork, and everything in this a lot of paperwork is necessary to be there. You're going to get some self-drilling drywall type screws. I can't see the tip. Yeah, it's got a little drill point on it. That is what you're going to use to hold the template onto the aluminum jamb. So let's switch it up and talk exactly what this is going to be used for. Okay, specifically, what you're going to use this for, you have a client who wants to add, most likely, some sort of access control over an aluminum storefront. You are installing a HES5200 series strike. You've got the requirement of getting that strike installed, and you can do it. You can use lots of tools for doing this, I suppose. But in my experience, a router is the most important way to get the best looking end result. And it just is, whether it be aluminum and obviously wood. I have used and owned countless routers over the years, and if you're going to do just one of these strikes, you know, you can get your mechanic square, you can lay all that out with a pencil, you can scribe it, you can make it look perfect on the workpiece, but now the trouble comes in how you're going to actually cut it. A jigsaw, drill the holes, connect the dots with your jigsaw. Yep, sure, that will work. A series of hole saws, that's awful. The bottom line, though, is there's no beating the straight edge of a router bit spinning. And I've done jobs where I was going to do just one or two pieces, and I could have done it with a hammer and chisel. But I took the 45 minutes to create the template because I wanted the job to look perfect when the hardware was installed. I wanted the piece to look as good as possible, I should say. And the advantage of that and this is I took the time to build that item, and now forever on in the future, whenever I do one of these, I've got that template. I'm in and out in minutes, and there's no beating the quality of the job that you're going to end up doing. So that's the purpose of this. And Major offers several scores of templates used for prepping material for hardware, and we're going to get into that. So let's do this. Let's switch to the screen view and let's dive into the supporting information for this, the installation manual, and we'll even take a look at the HES5200 strike template as well. So let's do that. Move on. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Okay, here is our item that we are studying, the HIT-41HS2, a router template for HES5200. Now, the RF5210-EA, I'm not certain what that is. That may have existed in an older catalog. Admittedly, I don't have their part numbers well memorized beyond the standard. Because HES 25 years ago was a company that had a lot less options in the market, but I've pulled up a 2012 catalog and I don't see an RF5210 in there at all, or any reference to RF, and they didn't even have a 5000 or a 5200 back then either. So you know, it's probably going to be for a radiused face, is what my guess is going to be. A round face, a round corner. would be my guess. But the bottom line is 5200. But looking at this video and the instructions and the template for the strike will allow you to really know if what you've got is the right item. So, extended description, router template for the 5200, 5210-EA, RF5200. Faceplate size, okay, well this is good. It's for a 4 7/8 tall strike. So the 1.25 inch is really a reference to the width of the body and not the strike lip length, which is common as well. Mounts to door or frame. Mounts to the door if you're doing an inactive door, that could be. Or the frame with self-drilling screws that are supplied. Requires the use of a router equipped with a 3/8 outside diameter template and a 1/4 inch diameter router bit. Think of that as mandatory. Think of this as if you don't have this and this, it's not going to work. So I will show you where you can pick those up and add to cart as well. For use on offset hung aluminum doors and frames only. Well, that's also really important to know, because what they're referring to by offset hung is when Major says offset hung. It's unclear to me what they're referring to, in the sense of, if you say offset hung, that's butts or a continuous hinge, most continuous hinges, or pivots, that the vertical axis of pivoting is somewhere out here. It's measured off what would be the face of the door. It's offset hung. The other term that goes along with offset hung is center hung. What you find in center hung applications is the door is in the center of the jamb and the vertical axis of pivoting is somewhere down here. This template is going to square off right here, okay, and you're going to prep right in here. This template is not going to work over here, is the bottom line. They're saying it's offset hung, meaning don't use it for this, because it won't work, because it's only coming out here. They have templates for center hung. We'll take a look at those. Okay, so let's take a look at some photographs that we have. This is what you get when you buy it. The template wrapped up in bubble wrap, instructions and those screws. There it is, showing some additional views on the item. This would be the, what would that be? Yeah, we've got the template upside down. Well, no, we don't. This would be like for a right-hand door or a right-hand reverse door. So this is the rabbit side. This is the pocket where the door sits. This would be the face of the frame. A little closer view on that. Please take note of this scribed line and this scribed line and this scribed line and this scribed line. I'm going to point those out later, why those are there. Back side of the template. A cross-section, black anodized aluminum that are attached together with screws. And then your screws, the self-drilling point, and then the installation instructions. Speaking of installation instructions, let's just take a look at the strike installation instructions. So these installation instructions are down below, and this is for the 5200 strike. This is handy because it will, you probably have this in your hand, but if you want to, dig deeper into whether or not this template is for what you want to do, well, here it is. So these are your cutouts. You'll be able to, review anything that's happening here. The RF5210-EA, that could be for this radiused corner, 1/8 inch radius, that's going to be a problem. You can discover that immediately because they said, oh no, forgive me, it's perfect. What, if you recall, what Major said is you need a 1/4 inch diameter router bit, and it needs to be an up spiral as well, and I'll show you why. Because you can see here that it's an 1/8 inch radius, so that's a 1/4 inch diameter bit. So it said it was 4 7/8, 1.25 inch. Great. The radius is good for what you're going to use. If you're doing a round corner strike, or a square corner is going to require that you come back with a small file and square those out. This will not do the other faceplate options. This is a 501 or a 501A faceplate option, square corner or radiused. It won't get into the 6 7/8 or larger faceplates, 7 15/16, 10 inch. They being Major likely have templates for those as well. We'll take a look at that. Okay, so that's that. Now, product brochure we'll get to later. Now, the installation instructions. This is going to be a relatively deep dive if you don't want a forensic review of every single one of the 12 pages. Skip forward probably 15 minutes, but let's start with that now. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Okay, so page 1, our cover page, these are the instructions. Stop. Read all instructions prior to use. That's a good idea, no matter what. If you've done this 1,000 times, it's good to read installation instructions. Your router bit must be equipped with a template guide prior to use, meaning your router has to have a guide installed in it. It just turns out that the router guide you need has to be a 3/8 outside diameter with a 1/4 inch bit. Now the reason that that's crucial is because the size of the preparation that has been done here and here and here and here is obviously larger than the template called out here and here. That's why you need the guide. Well, you need a guide to run the tool against the work surface, the workpiece, but that cutout size is going to be larger than that, larger than this. So the bottom line is, if you were to use a guide and a bit that you have in your tool, well, you'll sure create a prep. It just it's possible that it's not going to be the right size, because it might be smaller or larger, and this might be smaller or larger. It has to be these two. It has to be those two sizes. Doesn't have to be what you'd buy from Major. It just has to be those two sizes. Okay, so this is more safety. If you work in a shop, this would have been day 1 of your education, except that it's really important to know, always wear eye and ear protection, always. I add to that and say always wear a dust mask. Aluminum shavings aren't good ever. They're awful as a splinter, and they're even worse inhaled. And in fact, aluminum dust is flammable. Not that you're going to create aluminum dust, but just fun fact, I suppose. Always rotate in a clockwise direction. Now, there are 2 ways that you can cut. You can climb cut, which is clockwise, or you can conventional cut, which is counterclockwise. In a climb cut, because of the rotation of the bit, you want a climb cut, and that means that when you are cutting your piece, you're going in this direction. The router bit is spinning in this direction, so as you cut the piece, you want your router bit to bite and pull that out, rather than going in a conventional way where you're literally going to be hitting the workpiece with the back side of the bit. So you must move, when it's aluminum, obviously. You know, you need to move in a clockwise direction. If you don't, it's just not going to work right because of the bit that you're going to use. It'll be an up spiral, which is going to pull the chips out of the workpiece, suck them out of the piece, rather than a down spiral. So move in a clockwise direction. They'll say that again when we get to it. If you feel like you missed a part, don't back up, meaning don't go counterclockwise. You will make a cleaning pass, but you'll go again clockwise. Ear protection, eye protection. Now, again, they're telling you, there's your guide. That needs to be 3/8. There's your bit. Needs to be 1/4 inch. The electric strike being installed in the following demonstration is for an offset hung door. There are strike models available for both offset and center hung doors. If mounting in a center hung jam, be sure there is depth clearance for the strike. Our website has a complete listing of templates. Now, back to what I was saying earlier about center hung. You can do a center hung out here. It doesn't have to be in the center of the jam. And I think Major is using the term center hung when you are literally putting it in the center of the frame and it's center hung. Okay? But you can do center hung out here as well. All right, let's get to getting here. Page 5. Let's start at the top of page 5. Okay, so starting with the installation instructions, what Major has going here is, with the lock installed on the door, let the door close into the jam. With a pencil, locate the top and bottom of the latch. Pencil mark here and right here. Transfer these lines to the front and side of the jam with the use of a combination square. Okay, so on the face of the jam, you've marked here and here Then with the combination square, run them over into the rabbet of the frame. With a combination square established, the center line of the strike. The door and strike need to have the same center line. So what they're saying is, if you look at the edge of the door, the center line of this latch, if we look at it from, here's the edge of the door and the lock sticking out, here's the latch bolt, the center line of, this is 1 3/4 inch thick. The center line, the vertical center line, needs to be this center line as well. With a combination square established, the center line of the strike. The door and strike need to have the same center line. For a standard 1 3/4 door, this dimension is 7/8. Well, maybe. Depends on where you're measuring it from and the condition of the door. 7/8, you know, 1 3/4 divided by 2 is 7/8. If your door is flush with the frame in an aluminum storefront, it often is, but not always, then indeed, if that's 1 3/4, sure, this is going to be 7/8. But if that door is inset, you've got to think about the inset as well and adjust accordingly. From the door stop, if the lock is centered in the door channel. So for a 1 3/4 thick door, this dimension is 7/8 from the door stop if the lock is centered in the door channel. You know, what that means is from the stop to the center line. That's not good. That's not going to work. You know, you may have some pile in here. The margin between the face of the door and the face of the stop is not the same dimension. They can't exist. Both the face of the stop and the face of the door can't exist in the same place at the same time. You know, you need to account for that gap that's there. Otherwise, you're going to be filing. You won't be able to file an electric strike. You're going to be wanting to file an electric strike. If the lock is off center, adjust accordingly. So they're saying with that is, if the door is not centered in the thickness, well, you could have that. I mean, I've never seen it in an aluminum storefront. You could have 2 1/4 inch thick aluminum doors with the lock not centered. You could, it's possible, but you're probably not going to have that. If the lock is off center, adjust accordingly. The face of the electric strike and the face of the lock must be centered together when the door is closed. That's the bottom line. Because what that means is the center line of the keeper, you know, they're designing the center line of the strike to be the center line of the lock, is what I believe Major is saying there. Okay, we're already on page 6. Align the HIT-41 template to the pencil marks. Now that's where the scribe lines come in play. If you recall, I mentioned those, the one here, and the 2 that are here. You just simply line those up. Another trick that some people will do, and you want to be careful doing it, is what the demonstrator here is doing is literally placing his combination square here with the pencil here and sliding that all the way down to get that line, is what's being done. Align the HIT-41 template to the pencil marks and attach to the jamb using Tech Point drywall screws. It is a good idea to use a drill with a clutch feature. You don't want to snap the screw off in the jamb, sure. I would just be drilling it. Actually, what I would do is, depending on this template, yeah, I would probably use a Vicks bit to center that really well, and there you go. There's a drill bushing in here, so I would just be pre-drilling that. I wouldn't use the drywall screw as both a drill bit and a screw. Some HIT-41 templates have 1 screw hole, top and bottom, and some have 2. That just depends on the model of the electric strike, because the factory mounting tabs needed later, some of them have 1 hole and some have 2. So your strike, I think with HES they are actually included, and they're referred to right here. So this mounting tab for the HES 5000 has 2 holes here and here. So those 2 holes in your template are for here and here. Right there. Okay. 1 screw top and bottom will hold the template. The second hole for the tab can be located by drilling a 9/64 drill bit or by using a second screw. What they're saying is once you've got the template attached, go ahead and drill the other 2 holes because you're going to need them. Template mounted and ready to go. We recommend the area to be lubricated with a cutting lube. Major recommends Tapmatic Edge Cream made by LPS. LPS. Okay, so we've got LPS products here. If you go to manufacturers and then Control F for LPS, you will find LPS Labs. You'll be able to get, you know, LPS products from our site. This is an aerosol can of cutting fluid. I don't see that we have what's called Tapmatic here, but yeah, it's definitely in here. So reach out to us. I don't actually have the item in the website, but we do have it. Tapmatic Plus, formulated for aluminum cutting, dual action plus cutting fluid, designed especially for machining aluminum. Yeah, that's cutting fluid. That's not what, if you're CNC machining, you'll want that. But let's search for cream. Yeah, here we go. Pipe bending and cutting, Tapmatic Edge Lube. Yeah. Cutting with Edge Lube, aluminum. Yeah, that's the product that they apparently are recommending, LPS 43200. I don't know if there's a part number on there. Yeah, I can't really make anything out here. Okay, the bottom line is use a lubricant. It really matters because a tremendous amount of heat is generated. The reason that you want to use a cream is because in CNC machining, you can do two things that you kind of can't do by hand. You can control the RPM and you can control the speed. That all plays a role in determining the chip load. The chip load, these are your chips. The chip load is what carries the heat away when you're cutting. Well, you can't tailor those variables here, so you'll use a lubricant no matter what. Adjust the router bit so it's a 1/4 inch past the aluminum, just like they're showing. Place the router at the bottom of the template. You'll be routing the lip area first, which is going to be the face of the jam. And again, rotating clockwise, starting at the bottom. Let the router come to full speed and route through the side of the jam. Be sure to hold the router flat against the template and do not back up in the cut. When completed at the top, let the router come to a complete stop before removing it from the template. Resist the temptation of pulling the tool out before it's completely stopped. Note that we did not route through the top of the lip area. This will be that would cause a mess. Don't breach through here. That would be a bad thing. You'll have a lot of tear out. Note that we did not cut through the top of the lip area. This will be cut out in the next pass. If you run through the sidewall, you will run the risk of hitting the template with the router bit. Place the router now into the rabbet of the frame. Now what's interesting about this step, you might say to yourself, oh, I think I'm going to have trouble with the stop of the frame, but you won't, because the thickness of the template is like this. So your base will glide over that, is what I'm driving at. Place the router at the top of the template. You'll be routing the faceplate area. The router guide should be touching the electric strike template with the bit not making contact with the frame. Let the router come to full speed and route through the side of the jam. Be sure to hold the router flat against the template and do not back up in the cut. Let the router come to a complete stop before removing it from the template. Okay, now's a really good time to clean a lot. Shop vac, paper towels, dustpan, counter brush. Brush the aluminum chips from the router guide to prepare for the second clean pass. Now, you want to do this here and now as best as you can, because there's going to be micro pieces of aluminum on the bottom of your router base. So when you place the router back onto the template on both the face and in the rabbet, you don't want to scratch the face of your template, so wipe all that super clean because you will be doing a second pass. After making the first pass, brush away the chips and make a second cleanup pass. Use the same procedure as before. Clean everything. Remove the electric strike template from the jam. That's removing the 2 screws. Clean the area left over by cutting lube and chips. Be sure to use a brush to remove the chips. They are sharp. I would be using gloves for as much of this as possible. Use a machinist scraper or an aluminum cutting file and deburr all the openings. Yeah, clean all of this off. Lightly deburr all of this. Certainly make it presentable. If you need to square off the corners, which you will certainly out on the face of the jam, do that. Don't overfile. You don't want to bird's mouth that open at all. If the installation calls for a rounded corner faceplate, lightly touch up the area with a round file. Now, I had referred to the radius corner of 1/8 of an inch here. Oops. Okay, right here. With a 1/4 inch router bit, that's fine. You may have something different. You may have to touch that off a little bit. Now it's time to drill out the holes needed for the factory mounting tabs. Use a 3/16 drill bit for this job. The template in this case uses 2 mounting holes top and bottom. Some strikes only require 1 hole, so your template may vary from the picture. Countersink the mounting holes. That's for the screws that will hold the tabs in place. Prep is complete and ready to install the mounting tabs and the strike. Tabs go in. That's again included with this HES as far as I know. Install those factory tabs. I might consider using some thread lock on there as well. LPS may have that as well. Connect the wire leads and insert the strike. So do your wiring, then the strike goes in, tucking the wires in. Attach your strike using the factory mounting holes. Nice clean job. You know, the person who did this probably doesn't do it very often, or they don't maybe nowadays. But with this template, you can see that, boy, first time out, this works. Finished installation, and that's all there is to it. There you go. We just went through 12 pages. Awesome. Let's take a look at some supporting information. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Okay, now we're back at our item. Finishing this up, there's a link here below the manufacturer's video that you're looking at. From this page, you can view not only all of the major items we sell by means of this horizontal navigation, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Now, let's open that up. Now let's do a find function on our keyboard for 41HS5. All right. So 41HS5 took us to the major index in terms of what lock manufacturer are you working on with, what the type of hardware is, and what template to use. So it's all alphabetical. So a HIT-45HS5, that's for a 5200 series offset hung electric strike with a 4 7/8 face. Therefore, use the HIT-41HS5. Now you can see there's probably 10 templates here for your consideration from a HES alone. Obviously, Adam's right. There's going to be a serious number of those templates and everything else that's here. Alphabetical list. So this is about halfway through their catalog, and it's the introduction to all of their templates, jigs, fixtures, specialty installation tools. Okay, templates, lock, boring fixtures, a clamping system to allow you to do different function holes, even the pocket of a mortise lock, cutting bits and whatnot. Now I said that I would show you the bits that you would use for this, and here it is. Okay, so I had said up shear before. That's clearly wrong. You don't want up shear. Up shear is going to pull the chips out, but it's also going to probably want to pull the tool out as well. So special single flute, and single flute is correct for aluminum cutting. It just happens to be correct. A 2 flute or more than 1 flute will create more chips, but those chips will be smaller because your cutting edge is reducing that chip size by that quantity of flutes. So a bigger chip means better cutting because it's a bigger piece of material is carrying the heat away. So you do want a 1/4 inch. It is down shear, I'm corrected, and a single flute. So this is the HIT-45 RB4 is what you want. Okay, we keep those in stock. That's the bit you want. Then the guide. So a HIT-45 TG5. It's a 3/8 OD template for Porter cable for use of the 1/4 inch diameter bit for cutting aluminum doors and frames. So you're going to need the 45 RB4. You're going to need the 45 TG5. There's your template. If you have a Porter cable router, this would be which is what I prefer to use. There are other guides that are here. Ryobi, Sears. I don't believe all of these are still available. I think I had trouble getting the Sears, the Craftsman. That may have been difficult to get. They've got a 1/2 inch diameter. This is obviously this looks like it's maybe a chip breaker style 2 flute up shear. Yeah. So as you scroll through the second half of the catalog, you'll become quickly immersed in all things specialty installation tool from Major. Very quickly immersed. in all of this. So if you're looking to field integrate hardware, as in access control, in the year 2023, it's the infusion of access control in our industry has been extremely slow, but it's also been extremely constant. More and more and more and more access control is happening. Being able to prep doors for different locks, prep doors for electrified hardware. Major's got a lot of this stuff. Okay, if you're not sure how to get there, meaning you know that you have to prep for this type of whatever, lock, panic, obviously things in the jams like electric strikes, and you're not sure which tool to use, call us. We'll be happy to consult and get you there and get the order placed for the correct material. Now the first half of the catalog is basically security hardware from Major. They also have a full line of security devices, things that you're going to use as an integrator when installing material for your clients. I would really recommend scrolling through this. If you're out in the field and you're doing this type of work on your client's material, this catalog is going to have something for you at some level, guaranteed. Even if it's self-drilling screws that you can use when putting in a continuous hinge. Okay. Finally, in this catalog, I like their MCE 100 mortise cylinder extension kits. These are extensions that you'll put to the back of a mortise cylinder. The summary of this is, you need a 3-inch mortise cylinder, you need it in 2 hours. Great. If you've got these parts and everything you need to do it, you can create that. I've had people need a 2.5-inch mortise cylinder and a Schlage FG keyway, and they needed it in polished chrome. Why 2.5? Well, it was an extremely thick door and the lock was not centered in the door thickness. I was able to make that. I mean, I can make these in 45 minutes, with the right parts in hand. Sometimes if you're making extremely long cylinders, you need more than what Major provides, meaning I've had to stack these pieces on each other. So there you go. Let's wrap up this video on camera. So I'm a big fan of all things Major related. At the end of the day, I wouldn't necessarily say that there's anything complex happening with this material, but someone did have to engineer the piece. Someone did have to come up with how to take the idea and convert that logic or the idea into machining logic. How will they make these? What parts will you use? What tools will you use to cut them? How will you tap all the holes? How will you countersink? How will you engrave on the face here? What are they using for that? What is the alloy of the aluminum, and all of those other sub-assemblies, like how will they put drill inserts into these? All that had to be thought through, and Major's already done the work. And the bottom line is, if you're out in the field, and I've made my own templates, and they work perfectly, no problem. I've needed a template. I didn't have, maybe it doesn't exist, is probably why I'm making a template. But there are times when I'll make my own template, and I won't spend the money for a template. The truth of the matter is, the majority of the people are just going to buy the template to get the job done, because it's already engineered, it's already well thought out, and the value in the template is someone over at Major has already gone through the steps and has been able to see into the future, like those scribed lines that are on the back. They're thinking about, how are you going to place the template onto the frame? Not take this dimension and take this dimension and measure here and measure here. No. Locks in the door, close it, two lines. Okay, now you've got the center line of the latch. Line that up with the scribed marks. So someone's done all the work. If what you want to do is get in and get out, get your client's needs met, do it professionally, get paid, and have happy customers, the stuff's already engineered. It's already thought out. It's already on someone's shelf, probably ours, and you're able to pay for it and get a tracking number, and that's the bottom line. It's the whole point of this stuff. It's really expensive, but at the end of the day, how many electric strikes can you cut with this? If you don't take the router out of the frame until it's completely stopped spinning, and if you keep it clean, you should never replace this. Never. It won't wear out, is the bottom line. So there's a lot of logic in the idea of, let someone else do the work, just give me the tool. Anyway, if you have any questions on the HIT-41HS2 or the HES 5000 or any other Major product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.